Hey guys, today I wanted to share with you all of my favorite ways to repurpose eyeshadows. This is a continuation of my repurposing makeup series. I believe this is actually the last video in the series. I've now gone through every category of makeup. I've done primers, powders, foundations, all the way up to lipsticks, eyeliners, and now today we're doing eyeshadows. And for today's makeup look, with the exception of foundation, concealer, and mascara, everything else on my face right now is eyeshadow. I'm really excited to share these tips with you if you are trying to use up your eyeshadows or just trying to save money. Maybe you're really frugal and you just want to stretch your makeup as far as it will go. This video is for you. For me, it's just so much fun to find new ways to use products that I've owned for a long time in ways that I may never have thought to use them before. So all the videos that I've done in this series are saved to a playlist, so I will link that playlist below if you're looking for other ideas for other categories of your makeup. But let me go ahead and show you how I got this makeup look using almost exclusively eyeshadows. Now, a lot of these tips center around powder eyeshadows, but a great way to repurpose any cream shadow or eyeshadow stick that also happens to be a good color for either a contour, a bronzer, blush, highlight, any of the above. Today I'm going to demonstrate this with the Hard Candy eyeshadow stick in the shade Stoned. This is a really pretty matte taupe shade. Also looks to me like an amazing contour color. So I'm going to try this to contour my face today. So I'm going to take this and actually just kind of draw some onto this brush. This is a brush that I would often use for cream cheek products. And now I'm just going to stipple that in like the hollows of my cheeks. Yeah, that is a great, cool contour shade. I also wonder how this would look in the brows. I might try that too. A little bit up here onto my forehead, not a whole lot because I do want to also bronze today, but I actually really like that as a contour. It's a very cool toned contour. Sometimes I feel like it can be hard to find a good, like almost gray toned contour if you're looking for something that's really gonna create like a shadow on your face. And this color actually works really well for that. So that would be a great little travel hack too if you wanted to really cut down on the number of products you're taking with you. You could use this as your eyeshadow and your contour, maybe even your brow product. I might actually try that today. My next tip is to use a powder shadow as a setting powder. So for this, you're gonna wanna look for a shade that matches your skin tone. I'm gonna use this shade right here. This is just, so many palettes have a shade like this. This is a pretty close match to my skin tone. You can also do like a quick little swatch test like on your neck to see if it's going to match your skin tone. So I'm just taking this brush here and sort of swatching it on my neck, and that blends in like pretty perfectly, like you can't even really see it. So that's kind of what you're looking for. So I'm gonna try this as an under eye setting powder. Just pick some up on that brush. I mean, ultimately, a powder is a powder, so just because it's labeled as an eyeshadow doesn't mean you can't use it as a face powder too. And that actually worked really well. I was a little nervous it was gonna like oxidize my under eye concealer, but I think it actually worked really well. Awesome. So that's something to try out, especially if you feel like you have a ton of like this same type of shade in your collection. Now, if you also wanted to repurpose eyeshadows as like an all-over face setting powder, you could even take this a step further and find a couple shades like that in your collection, or even mix a couple of shades together to create your perfect match. Scrape them out into a larger pan, like you could repurpose an empty powder compact that you already have, and repress those shades together, basically create a Franken powder, and that way you can more easily fit a larger brush into the pan, because obviously it's a little difficult to fit like a big powder brush into this tiny pan. So if you really wanted to like use up a bunch of your eyeshadows at one time, that would be a great way to do it. So I'm just going to use my regular pressed powder on the rest of my face, and then we will get into the next tips that I have. Another great way to repurpose eyeshadow is to use it as a bronzer. So I'm going to do this with a throwback palette here. This is the e.l.f. Earth and Ocean palette. This shade right here looks like a great bronzer shade for me. And I'm gonna take a slightly smaller brush than what I would normally use for bronzer, just so that I can fit it into the pan. I'm just gonna sort of roll that through that shade, try to get like an even coat on my brush. Just layering it over where I contoured and just slightly above that. Actually, I always thought that shade was matte, but it actually has sort of a satin finish. Like it's not glittery or anything, it just has like a slight pearliness to it, which I think is pretty for bronzer. And just to even that out, since I used such a smaller brush than I normally do, I'm just gonna take a little bit of translucent powder on a big powder brush and just gonna tap over that just to make things nice and seamless. Okay, I'm watching this while editing and realizing, like, girl, how did you not notice how patchy that bronzer looks? So yeah, I think in the future I probably would pick a slightly lighter shade. I think looking back, that e.l.f. shadow is just a little bit too deep than deeper than what I would normally use for bronzer. But yeah, try to ignore that. Thanks. So I'm sure you can guess what's next. We're gonna use eyeshadow as blush. So I'm gonna try this with my BH Cosmetics Summer in Saint-Tropez palette. Okay, I think I'm gonna do a mix of Sand and Villa, those two. And I'm taking one of my smallest cheek brushes. This is the BK Beauty 112. Smaller than I typically use for blush. I actually do like this for cream blush. I don't normally use it for powder, but I think it should work well today. So I'm gonna just dip back and forth a couple times between those two shades. Ooh, I actually like the precision I get with this brush. I should probably use this more often for powders. Ooh, yeah, I really like that shade. Okay, I actually love the shade that created so much. I think that is so pretty. It's like the perfect dusty pink color. I love that. And like if I think about how many rosy, pink, coral, blush tones that I have in my eyeshadow palettes, that like increases my blush options tenfold, at least, you know? And for highlight, you guessed it, we're gonna be using an eyeshadow. And I wanna try this with one of my Aether Beauty eyeshadows. I know I love Aether's highlighters, so I have a feeling their eyeshadows are gonna work well as highlighter too, because they just have such beautiful shimmery textures. So I'm gonna try it with this light shade from the Citrine Quad, that is the shade Citrine. And I'm actually gonna use that same brush that I used for the under eye powder. I just wiped it off because it's a good size for this. Just gonna pick up a little bit of that and let's see how it does. Ooh. That is so pretty. Definitely sparkly. Like if you don't like sparkle, you might want to look for a more like subtle satin type of shade in your collection or something more with like a finer shimmer, but I think that is so pretty. Love that. I'm just gonna take whatever's left on the tip of my nose. So as I was using that Hard Candy taupe eyeshadow stick as contour, I had the thought that this would probably also make a great eyebrow color for me, so I'm gonna try that. I'm basically gonna use this as a brow pomade. So I'm gonna take a small angled brush, pick some of that up, and let's see. Okay, that is actually like a spot-on shade match. The great thing too about this eyeshadow stick is that it is one of those that really locks into place. So, oh hi Heidi. So this is gonna have good staying power. Okay, well that looks great. I actually really like that. For my actual eyeshadow look today, I'm going to use the BH Cosmetics Summer in Saint-Tropez palette. I'm going to start out with the shade Sand. That's one of the shades I used for blush. I think it'll be nice to have this tie in with the cheeks. Ooh, that is, I love that shade so much. Basically just diffusing that from my crease up to my brow. I also love using colorful eyeshadows as liquid liner. So all you need to do for this is just take a setting spray or just a spray bottle with water, get your eyeliner brush wet, and then I'm gonna do, let's see, I'm gonna do this navy blue shade here, the shade Bay. I'm just going to pick up some of that on my wet brush. It goes on a lot like a liquid liner. And this has basically taken away the need for me to ever buy another colored eyeliner again, because I have so many color options in my eyeshadow palettes that I can pretty much get any color that I would ever want for eyeliner. And, you know, realistically, I don't wear this exact color of liner very often, so it wouldn't really make sense for me to buy a liquid liner in this exact shade to wear maybe a couple times a year. I've also done the same thing with this red shade down here. I love red winged liner, but obviously I don't wear it very often, so whenever I do want to wear red liner, I can just dip into that shade and I don't need to have a separate eyeliner in that color. So that is one of my favorite tips, and it's honestly saved me a lot of money. Then I'm just going to tap a shimmer on the lid. I'm going to use the shade Coastline. I'm just going to tap that on, and I'm fine with that overlapping a little bit with that blue. I kind of like the way that looks. I feel like it just makes it look more seamless. Ooh, it's been so long since I've used this palette, but this is reminding me how much I love this one. For my lips, you guessed it, I'm also using eyeshadow. I actually want to try, just continuing with this Summer in Saint-Tropez palette, I want to try this red shade on my lips. I've never done that before with this shade. So to use an eyeshadow as a lip color, first you're going to want to lay down just a thin layer of lip balm. So I've got my lips coated in that. I'm even going to just lightly tap off any excess, because I don't want a ton. I just want enough so that the eyeshadow can stick to my lips. I'm just kind of tapping some of that off with my finger. And now I'm going to take a finger that does not have lip balm on it and pick up some of that eyeshadow and just kind of dabbing that on. And then I'm not going to dip that same finger in again because I don't want to get any lip balm in the eyeshadow, but taking another finger. And I want to get a little more precision on my upper lip, so I'm just going to take this flat concealer brush, pick up a little bit of eyeshadow just on the tip, and use that to really define the Cupid's bow. And there it is. I really like the soft, kind of almost blotted lip effect that this gives. So those are some of my favorite ways to repurpose eyeshadows, and also, not to mention, there are so many different types of Franken products you can create with eyeshadows if you want to mix a few different shades together to make a custom bronzer or blush or highlighter. I mean, the options are really endless, so let me know down below what are your favorite ways to repurpose eyeshadows. I would love to hear any tips that you have below. Thank you guys so much for hanging out today. I hope you had fun. If you did, be sure to give the video a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and hopefully I will talk to you again very soon in my next video. Bye!